Likewise, my pleasure.
Vortex is repositioned from Vortex MM to Vortex Tier 1 token partner. What does the solution mean for your clients in the industry at large?
It's basically the logical step of expansion for us in the sense that our core expertise initially started in market making and some of the algorithmic solutions as well for trading. It was back in 2020.
Можно
Сосед.
начать заново,
Давай, давай, давай.
смотрим на меня камеру.
Смотреть не на камеру.
Нет,
О, окей, good, good.
я заново говорю. Vortex is repositioned from Vortex MM to Vortex Tier 1 token partner. What does the evolution mean for your clients in the industry at large?
That's just a logical step of expansion for us in the sense that we originally started as a market maker and trader back in 2022. We kind of expanded the scope of services throughout 2023, 2024. And this year, obviously, a lot of the projects out there know that the space is kind of like overflooded with the market makers, so like service providers. There are not really that much of a history, guys. Like they don't have the actual infrastructure for that. So like, given that our brand was much bigger and we had much more experience than those guys, we decided that just a market maker is not the most accurate description for us anymore. It's actually being able to provide the whole ecosystem and the infrastructure for the token, which also includes OTCs, which also includes strategic investments, which also includes a lot of the advisory tokenomics support. So basically trying to focus on the one-stop ecosystem for the token instead of just market making is what we're looking for this year and next year as well.
When a project comes to you before teaching, what's the biggest need they usually have, and how does Vortex help close it?
There's actually a few. So obviously some of the projects, maybe a lot of them are looking for funding. This is probably the hardest gap because VCs are not that active anymore. Angels, they are very private and it's typically consistent of mostly friends and family rounds. So that's probably the hardest thing to do is to actually raise for a project right now if you're looking for venture funding. But if the project is doing something in a pretty consistent manner and in a trend which is, there's a few hot trends right now, which is obviously RWAs, AI, and a few others. So if it kind of like collides with the overall narrative, then that's where we help. And we actually help get to the right people, we help get to the right funds, we help get to the right liquidity providers, ourselves included. And that's one of the biggest ones. Apart from this, obviously, we help on the tokenomics and we help on the advisory. If a project comes to us PTG, which is the best time to come into touch, we also help them get in touch with exchanges, help them not to overpay for the listings. That is a costly mistake some of the founders do. Make sure that tokenomics is fine for the sell pressure, for the TGE unlocks, etc. And apart from this, just provide our strategic guidance and consultations.
Economics is often underestimated by founders. What's the most common mistake you see, and how do you help projects avoid it?
Yeah, the most common are really the same for all those years. It's too much pressure at TGE, or not even tokenomics itself, but just giving out too much tokens to KOLs or the exchanges or anybody else. Like without too much liquidity, that just instantly kills the token. It's always best to pay as much as possible in stables, not in tokens, and it's always best to make sure that the TGE pressure is kind of balanced out in a way that the unlocks for the investors or the VCs or whoever is not happening 100% at TGE. Yeah, that's probably the most common one.
And the last question. What does it take for a project to move from launching a token to building a sustainable token economy, and where does Vortex fit into it?
I think the most important job of a founder today, especially of a token, is to build something that generates revenue. To build a product that is actually usable, to build a product that is able to make money, and to build a product, first of all, not a feature, and to build a product, second, that is able to generate those kind of returns for the investor. Because obviously, as I mentioned, like a lot of the VCs, they are very dormant right now in the sense that they're not deploying, or they're deploying less, or they are looking for more short-term deals. It's very hard for founders to rely on like this consistent Series A, Series B, Series C rounds, and they have to rely, like Hyperliquid did, on their own revenue. That's the most challenging part for the projects. Like obviously, we cannot make founders or sort of like give them a product or a business idea that is guaranteed to work. But we can guide them to make sure that whatever they have in mind, especially if it sort of like coincides with the overall vision and trends in crypto, is headed in the right way, both spending-wise, token-wise, and on everything that we have the expertise on.